should be. Yay, I already see the file. Yay, I'm recording. It's the stream, and I've had a busy weekend. It's still busy. So I'm back in Satisfactory instead of Darksiders 2. And I don't think I had the aluminum stuff all set up last time I did one of these, so here's the input. This is where I'm getting the bauxite ore, as you can see, and it's, you know, it's got a distance to it. I also don't really have any notes. I remember seeing some things in the news. I already put up because remember I do these recordings on Friday. I already put up the game stuff. I literally just put up, and so much of it's just out of my head. That's the kind of week it has been for me. It also doesn't help that enough of what I've been doing this week. It's like I can't tell you about, because it's like that's under embargo until sometime in the near future. I look forward to that time being up, to that time coming. But I have seen some other things. So it's like I saw actually one thing today that more than a rumor, or a better rumor, I guess, about NVIDIA trying to purchase ARM, which it's still, I mean, I can understand their desire to do that, but at the same time, it's like, I am just left believing that there's going to be way too many regulatory hurdles saying, no, you really can't, because it's just, this is a technology used by far too many of your competitors, and you can't just, we can't let you basically just have that and be able to say, nope. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what comes of that. And of course there have been other things as well. Alright, so this is bauxite ore, comes in, goes down there. And yeah, this is part of the setup for aluminum. There's the rest of it over there. Like, all of that. Some of that is a lot more built up than it needs to be, though. So the bauxite ore comes in here, goes into these refineries that also take water, and that produces alumina solution and silica. I don't need the silica, so that just, you know, goes off to be destroyed in. You can actually use the silica to make the aluminum, but I had the recipe to take the alumina solution and petroleum coke, which that's made over there. And you get water and aluminum scrap, which, as you can see, it's right here. It gets sent over and into the smelter. Which, let me actually check what the number is here. Okay, that's... So fortunately, yeah, like, none of this is balanced. It isn't, and I know it. But it's like, yeah, I do have more smelters here. The thing is that I can't hook them up, because then, like, this one will have too much time where it's just waiting because it doesn't have enough. It's like, if you look at this one, even this one's actually pretty tight, while this one is full. That's yeah, it's kind of crazy. And it's trying to remember, I figured out at one point where the actual stall in it is, and I want to say it's basically the processing of the alumina solution. Yeah, it's like this takes so long. I guess maybe I could overclock those, but it's, yeah, it's a little awkward. But fortunately, it looks like everything is set up such that, because I had like actual stalls in at one point where like there would be too much water and you can't really get rid of water that easily. It's not like you can pump it into the sink. But anyway, it makes those, yeah, those are ingots, aluminum ingots, which then, in order to make the plates that I can then use for, you know, these, and basically everything. Yeah, it's funny, the ingots are completely useless for anything except being made into the plates. So it is a weird design choice. I feel that it's like, oh yeah, it's completely useless. You then have to take it here into an assembler along with copper ingots, which that's what these produce way more of than I could ever need. And as you can see, it's getting made that. And I didn't realize I had these things slowed down, but yeah, probably just to have things better balanced so that it's basically always running. But again, I could expand this out, it wouldn't help things. And I don't want to actually do balancing. Yeah. Balancing would be where... So it's like I've got 4 here instead of 1 coming in then being split and then this manifold kind of system. Instead of doing that, it would come in and just go through the appropriate number of splitters so that they would always get the same number. That would actually be more helpful over there, but I don't want to do it. It takes up too much space, and this is much easier to expand on. Well, anyway, once it makes those plates, they get put into this line of containers, which I have a splitter here. So I figure I'm going to be wanting a lot of this stuff. That's why I have so many containers, so I can have such a huge supply. But this line here, well, actually, no, I won't take it that way. Take it this way. It goes down, and I'll explain about this whole setup too in a little bit. To this train station where this last one right there will load that last car. And nope, I'm apparently just outside of it. Nothing's gonna happen because I actually started the save here. Not remembering what it is I want to do, but yeah. And so it's like this one is pipe, I think? Yeah. Then steel plates, steel beams, because I need that for making those the rail tracks. Then we got concrete, and then lastly the aluminum, because it had been iron plates before, because I can use that to make walls, but it's like this is so much more useful, especially as I go through and upgrade everything to use them, because it's the fastest, if I hit the right button. Yeah, 780 resources per minute compared to 480, the one step down. It's very nice. Alright. So I also got this stuff set up, and this was all like 2-3 weeks ago when I had time. And I don't have all the walls put in yet. So the the petroleum coke produced by first doing this, which creates mainly the heavy oil residue, but also this polymer resin, which will go into here and be destroyed because I don't need it. The excess petroleum coke is also destroyed that way. We come up here. Wait for the save. There we go. That heavy oil residue. Yeah, heavy oil residue is made to the petroleum coke I need over there, which is, yeah, so it will by default go here, which is all the way over to there to be used with the aluminum, but the excess will be put down there to be destroyed. But it's also, I put in this splitter. What is the splitter for? You can combine heavy oil with water to get diluted fuel. So it's basically a very efficient way to produce fuel, and I set that up. So now I've got it pumping up there, which I think is full. Yeah, because this can't take apart anymore. I actually should get some more bottles. And I think I might actually do that here. Hang on. But anyway, yeah. I have kind of a similar setup to what I have in the Gold Coast area, where it pumps the fuel up. Into a tank, which has filled. From that tank then, it flows down, and I currently have 4 set up here, so 4 fuel burners they have 15 each, so that's 60, so 1 output here of fuel can be done on that one floor. So if I put in another floor, that's basically the maximum output of both of these lines going at full speed would be that. And that's, I don't remember how much power they would do. Okay, and it's 150 out. So it's also 600 per floor from 60 fuel. So yeah, not bad. But because I've got so much, I've got all the geothermal and such hooked up that there's really not, I'm gonna hurt. There's not that much use. Where? Yeah, so it's like I've got over 10 gigawatts, but I'm only using about, 5,500 megawatts, so not too bad. Where is it over here? No, it's over here. I'm trying to remember how to get down without just falling. Here it is. So the funny thing about that diluted fuel is you need bottled water. So what I had to set up is the ability to use canisters to produce the bottled water, and it just goes on a circuit because they won't get used. It's used as transport basically. All right, let me see. Can I? No, I can't. All right, that's fine. It won't be that hard for me to go and get some. Technically, turbo fuel is better, but it's like you can make turbo fuel, which is more efficient in the fuel burners, but it's like fuel is not that hard for me to get, and the turbo fuel, it requires making compacted coal and then mixing coal in there, and that's a whole thing. I've not set up any sort of stuff that you need for all that. So anyway, I'm going to head over to the Gold Coast, because that's where I can get plenty of canisters, and I'll just dump them in here. Alright, so what other stuff was there to talk about from the news? It's more of the hardware stuff. Did Intel confirm? I've been so busy, I haven't been able to check their press room kind of stuff. Did they confirm that they are going to be placing orders with TSMC? I know I've been seeing the rumors about it, and that it'll be on the 6nm node or something like that. But yeah, it's a big deal. I didn't look at their press room, but I have been seeing some stuff about their restructuring. That includes one of their executives, I think it would be an executive level, responsible for their node development stuff, their engineering stuff, has been let go in one way or another, and they've shuffled things around to try to deal with this. But it's Intel's not in a good spot, it really seems, because it was last week, wasn't it, when they revealed that not only is 10 nanometer not where they wanted to be, but 7 nanometer has been delayed. I mean, it's good time for AMD in that, at least on the CPU side, because they have the advantage for the process nodes at the moment. And it's kind of funny, because those years ago when they sold off their foundry capacity, forming Global Foundry, I don't think that people would have expected that would have enabled them to be in such a better position than Intel so many years later. I mean, it was a way for them to bring in money, and they needed to at the time. At the time, AMD was not making much money, and it was a dangerous time for them. But they got through it. That helped. That helped a lot. Yeah, it is quite an interesting turn. But it's also worth noting, Intel, they're not incompetent, not at all. Anyone who thinks that is a fool. They will figure out how to catch back up. They have all the expertise they need. It's just seems that they've been very unfortunate with how the design stuff has gone for their manufacturing. So it will be interesting what happens when they ultimately do awaken, because it's they are sort of a sleeping giant, but it's also kind of a kneecapped giant at the moment as well. But who knows, maybe it also helped, because sometimes when you are limited in your resources and your capabilities, that's when you become the most creative to try to make do with what you have. You can't just rely on a tighter density to the transistors. So now we can pack more on there, and that lets us have more performance in that way, and it's a better process, so we can turn up the frequency more. It's like, it forces them to get more creative, and they're definitely doing that. Is it Rocket Lake? Is that the code name for it? With the whole the big little stuff, which for mobile definitely has potential, but it's hard to tell at the moment, I would say. It's like you need the products, and we need to see what's going to come of it. It's also very hard to say, though, will that prove useful on desktop? That ability to come on, brain, turn back on. And I can also yank. Do that so we can fill back up. Yeah, so this is set up so any leftover heavy residue will be gotten rid of. But I have it. I talked about that in the previous part. I have this set up so that basically it will never. It's not balanced. It fills up first. So it's like that's full. So we have some flowing here. Oh, we actually have some here too, but none here. So this is the last thing that gets any production. So I've got 2 unused refineries basically for making the petroleum coke, and then these 2 that are unused for spitting out the heavy oil, packaged heavy oil residue for being destroyed. There's part of me that's tempted to try to set this up, to use the heavy oil residue mixed with water to produce, because I think that might be a lot more efficient than what I've got set up here, but it's like I don't want to tear this all down again. Alright, yeah, the big little stuff. I can understand somebody questioning, could that be useful for desktop? Because on desktop you want greater performance, you don't care so much about power efficiency. Turn that off and let's get going. And it is an interesting question that it's like, well, no, because you do want the greater performance, but at the same time, could they still, by leveraging their ability to package multiple different dyes together, because don't forget that's part of it. Their EMIB and Foveros, I think it's Foveros, is that it? That technology that Intel's been working on for a while now, that is very interesting. And even though it's like, okay, who wants lower performance cores on desktop, I wouldn't be surprised if they still manage to do some very creative things with that. Yeah, it's like one thing is that you can have. I remember this for. Is it true for GPUs or was it both? It was GPUs and CPU. Anyway, that like long pathways in a CPU will, if I'm remembering this correctly, it allows for higher clock speeds but lower IPC, where shorter ones are better for higher IPC, but it's worse for clock speed. I don't perfectly remember, but yeah, IPC and clock speed do kind of fight each other to a degree, at least in some aspects. So imagine if you could have high IPC and high clock speed cores in the same CPU, and depending on what is going on, it could swap between them. I could see that being potentially useful, because there are some things where it's like, no, we want high clock speed. And then there are other things where it's like, yeah, clock speed isn't so important, we want the higher IPC. Sorry, I said clock speed and then IPC. have no idea how you'd be able to auto-magically swap between which cores, recognize what's going on. But that could be an interesting thing. I'm just trying to think what else. It's also because isn't that design also got some memory stacks in the die as well? I mean, Intel's definitely being very creative and innovative, and it's just really unfortunate to a degree that their nodes are not where they want it to be, so they can't do as much as they probably want to do. I'm just trying to think. AMD did put out their quarterly stuff. I haven't looked at that. But generally pretty good. I think they did beat some estimate. And they're predicting, I want to say I saw something saying that, yeah, they're making a prediction that's like, I mean, it'll be very impressive if they meet it. It might be a bit aggressive of an estimate, basically. But I mean, it's not unreasonable because don't forget, it's this quarter or next? Well, no, this quarter would be them shipping. Next quarter would be the actual sales, though, for the consoles and the semi-custom chips from AMD for both of them, and also RDNA 2. They've, if I remember correctly, AMD did make a statement that the first RDNA 2 based products will be the graphics cards. It won't be the consoles. So we should see that stuff first. Though I have seen some rumors. It's weird, some of these rumors, because I do feel like some of them really, really are just people espousing their wishes. But one being that NVIDIA's going to announce first, then AMD will first announce and then launch later. But it's also like, well, I mean, isn't that how NVIDIA does it at times too? I mean, where they, have a paper launch and then weeks or a month before you actually see the it become realized. Unfortunately, I think that's the only I can have. So I can cheat it a little bit. Oh wait, no, that's splitter, not a merger. I should have a merger somewhere. It'll be up there probably. But it was also interesting because I saw Hardware Unboxed did their monthly Q&A things, and I saw it would be over there. There was a question. I don't quite remember the question though, but it was part of it. What it made me think about was the whole, what are the targets that AMD has to hit with RDNA 2? With the big Navi stuff. And it is definitely interesting to think about, but I think that it would be most accurate to say that there are two different targets in mind. They only really need to hit one. If they hit both, though, that'll be a big deal. I would say that the two targets, the lower one is basically where they actually need to be for raw performance, which is, I don't necessarily feel that they need a 2080 Ti killer. That's in my own opinion. I don't think that they need to have that level, that a killer performance, 2080 Ti killer performance. But, definitely they should be in that ballpark and a little bit better with the new stuff. It's like that they have not been present in the Halo product region for a very long time. They need to do that, even though mid-range is what sells. That's where you need the better product really to make money. But having the fastest GPU, even if that's not what people buy, is still a positive because people associate that. Even in some professional aspects, where it's like, no, you're buying a Quadro card from NVIDIA, not buying the the Titan, but it's still like, no, but they have this Titan and it's awesome, so we want NVIDIA. That actually does happen. So yeah, it's a funny thing, but it's like, if AMD, and I think it is reasonable to believe that they will achieve that level of performance. It might not be as great as some people would want, but I think that it's reasonable that they will be able to re-enter the top end well. But if they do that, they're going to be in good position. The other performance target, though, would be the one that NVIDIA wants you to believe is the performance target that must be hit. And I personally disagree with that. And that's the ray tracing that is amazing, and oh my god, you gotta have this, even though no game really uses it, and it's a horizontal graphics quality movement. I'm sorry, ray tracing is yet to impress me. As a technology, it's awesome. As anything actually implemented, you don't need it, is my feeling. Or it's cheating graphics, like with the Minecraft RTX, who really cares? It's like, you're making diamond glow, why would I believe this? Why would I say this is better? It's like, you're not applying it to make it real, you're applying it to make it look fancy. But it's, like, hitting that is... it will be interesting, because AMD has the RDNA 2, and I'm certain I've said this before, AMD's hardware accelerated, fixed function accelerated ray tracing should end up being second generation. They've had the time to work on it, especially since RTX came out, to figure out, okay, that's their approach, how can we do it, how can we do it differently, how can we do it better? So yeah, that, and also they have a lot of time in hardware accelerated ray tracing support, because they've had the OpenCL initially, now it's Vulkan based ray tracing acceleration. So it's like they just haven't been doing the fixed function yet, but it's that they have the expertise. So it will be interesting, and I do think you can say it'll be second generation, even though it's the first release from them. Now NVIDIA is also going to have their second generation RT cores, which will be interesting to see as well. That is definitely going to be interesting to see, the AMD versus NVIDIA second generation ray tracing methods. I could see them being appreciably different, to the point that you could see an advantage for one or the other. Then there's also the whole... it is interesting to see people fawn over DLSS so much. And I get it is better than DLSS 1, but it's just... I'm sorry, I can't help but see the whole... In MechWarrior 5, the graphics changed with DLSS on. Effects actually look substantially different, and I don't like that. So it's... And it was funny looking at some of the comparisons with Death Stranding that people were putting up. It's like, I can see it there too, where the lighting is different for some of the stuff. Yeah, it's like... But it's also hard to tell, because I never saw one that was truly side by side. It looked like there's always some movement in the frame, or at least by the main character, so... And I don't have the game, so I can't test it. But then I did see one thing that's like, ooh, this could be much more interesting. Apparently Sony has filed a patent. I don't want the train here, I'm going to take it back to Lake Base, I think. Apparently Sony filed a patent for an AI-assisted reconstruction method that would improve upon checkerboard rendering. So the PlayStation 4, probably also PlayStation 3, and various PC games as well, allow TA checkerboarding, which is where they actually divide the screen into so many square areas, and they render half of them one frame, and then the other half the next frame. And using temporal information, they will actually, and motion vector kind of stuff, they can reconstruct the full frame from that. So basically you're rendering at half resolution, but because of that every other, you're able to figure out what the full resolution is. And F1 2020 and F1 2019 both have TAA checkerboard as options, and I looked at them in both those reviews. I don't think I'm going to do a performance analysis for 2020, by the way, because even the 580, which is one of the least powerful cards I have, had zero issue with that in performance at the highest quality setting. At least for my 2048 by 1152 monitor. Maybe at 1440p it would be struggling, but it's like, I can't test that. So it's like, what am I going to do? Because like the 580, the Vega, the 1070, the 1080, the 2060, the 2080, it'll all be boring. It's all going to be smashing the performance. It's going to be amazing on those. The 980 might struggle, the 770 probably will, but I might be able to turn things down so the 770 is fine. It's like, what's the use to it? But anyway, on quality, the TA checkerboard actually did look pretty good. And there was a performance benefit. So it's like this, it was softer than native, but it looked pretty good. So the idea of applying some kind of AI to make that reconstruction even better is definitely interesting. But it's also interesting because, like, well, Sony is using AMD chips. I wouldn't be surprised then if this is partially done with AMD. That's complete speculation on my part, in case you weren't sure. Just to, if nothing else, make sure that it will be supported. You coming? I didn't realize that there was that much momentum for the train yet. Alright, it's coming. So it's like, I would think AMD's gonna be aware of that, so could they start using it as well? And it's also I don't think AMD will ever do a Tensor Core kind of thing, because that's kind of stupid. I mean, I'm sorry, it's almost fixed function kind of silicon in there, kind of circuitry in there, for something that is barely used. It's really, I mean, it's like Tensor Cores are nice for like one kind of AI. That's it. It's not useful for anything else. You would need to figure out a way to convert things to tensor math in order for it to be useful, or you could just have stronger compute so you don't need it. And I doubt AMD would do that. And I still feel like DLSS was originally developed because NVIDIA realized, oh crap, we made this thing and it's actually not that useful for anyone outside of these very specific cases. And it's going to be in the GeForce dies. We need to come up with something that'll make use of it. I do feel like that was part of the motivation. And I know that is somewhat insulting to NVIDIA, and I don't mean it that way, except as far as I don't think it's as useful, as significant for the general user than they want you to think it is. That is my feeling on the Tensor Core. But there are plenty of ways to do accelerated AI stuff without them. I don't think Microsoft has released all the direct ML stuff yet. I could be wrong on that. I don't follow that as closely. I just want to make sure what kind it was, so we do have a line there. Oh, that's right. Because this is the by 2 and this is by 4. Got it. And now my brain just switched off. I hate it when it does that. But it's like there is great potential for competitors to DLSS that will function very similarly and just as well, and in no way rely on Tensor Core. And Sony has apparently has worked on one method that they have a patent for, and there are very, very potentially others. And one other thing that I feel like pointing out, because I'm seeing people making comments about how no, DLSS is something completely different because it's such an advanced system with its reconstruction capabilities and it's just so amazing. It's like, okay, there has been reconstruction methods for a long time. Technically, morphological filtering is a reconstruction method. MLAA, which nobody really likes, but technically it is, because it is trying to reconstruct what the original image is and then blur accordingly to remove the aliasing. That is kind of like that, but there's also SRAA. I remember seeing when I was doing the anti-aliasing article, the research for that. SRAA was a screen space reconstruction anti-aliasing? But it's like, there is also that, and that's in Crisis 3, I believe? Maybe it was Crisis 2? But it's like, if that does exist, that's been around for a while. It's like, DLSS does it differently, maybe does it better, but it's not like it's been invented. But I'm seeing people hype it that way, and it's just, no, that's not quite what's going on here, guys. I mean, that is what's happening there, but it's like, guys, it's just a reconstruction method. We have those already. I can see the argument, though, that, oh, well, it's better than the fidelity effects sharpening. It's like, well, yeah, because that's just a straight sharpening filter, but you're still making stuff up. It's still an image enhancer. In both cases, sharpening is an image enhancer. Reconstruction, how they're doing it, is an image enhancer. That's what it is. Does it do a better job? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Is it impacting the actual content of the image? That, in MechWarrior 5, I saw. So, to me, that's why I don't like it. Anyway, I'm just blathering on. I would say, getting back to the thing about the whole aim, I think that there's two different targets that AMD has concerning the GPUs. The one is the actual just pure raw performance stuff that I think is reasonable they will hit. It'll be interesting at what price point, though, because I think it is definitely reasonable that NVIDIA is not going to be dropping price to performance, that they're not going to be improving that ratio that they threw off with Turing. Will they hit the other one, the target that NVIDIA sets? I can only speculate, but my general feeling would be they might not, as at the high end and for just raw performance, but at price to performance, I could believe that AMD would try to price aggressively enough that at the mid-range and the higher range, so that's not like the Titan level or 2080 Ti kind of level, but like the 2080 or 2080 Super, I could see at that, if they price aggressively enough, that's where they could win, and with meeting those targets. And I mean that class, not that, actually at that 20 level performance. I mean that performance class. So I could see that happening. But it will also be interesting to see at the lower end what ends up happening, and in the mid-range. It will be very interesting. The end of this year is going to be so interesting with the technology stuff. Because we're going to have at least announced the new AMD and NVIDIA GPUs, the new consoles, and I want to say the Zen 3 CPUs. The Ryzen 4000 series CPUs are supposed to be released at the end of this year. There's a lot that's going to be going on. A lot of innovation. It will be awesome. Hopefully all the pricing will be decent. Alright, I'm going to stop now. Hey, just shy of 40 minutes. Not too bad, so I can get to work on other stuff now. Hopefully I'll see you next time, and I don't decide, I can't do this, I'm busy with other things. This would have been one of those weeks, but it's like, no, I got the time. I can make the time, so I'll do it. Alright, see you next time.